opening and
Hey.
Hi, folks. I did it. I didn't mess up once, and I think I did it. Sitting next to me is my friend Kevin Donato. For all you horse guys, if you remember, years ago in Freehold, there was a really nice guy. He was a trainer driver. His name was Bobby Donato, and we were good friends, and we were just good friends. He was a real good guy. And when I first was going through YouTube, I saw Kevin, and I saw his last name, Donato. I didn't even know who he was. I don't go to movies. I don't do none of that stuff. So I watched the podcast, and then I got a hold of him after they left his number. However, I did it through one of them things, and I asked him. I told him who I was. I says I'd like to talk to him. He called me back, and I didn't know he's a heavyweight guy. He's from Jersey. He was born and raised in Jersey. He's an actor. He's been through the whole thing. He's a war hero. He's been. I don't think he told this story 15 times on different, all bigger podcasts, not these little Mickey Mouse ones that we're on now. He come here as a favor to me because I picked his brain all afternoon because my movie is getting closer and closer and closer. And in reality, I want him. He's the perfect guy to play me through the whole movie. I don't know if I could make that happen because the investor wants these heavyweight guys, and he's not there quite yet. So we'll see. But we spent all afternoon eating and not drinking. Had a couple of glasses of wine. And right now, we ate half a cheesecake, 2 big steaks, salad. We had everything, and Zeppeli's coffee, wine, and
the long hots. Yeah,
the long hots. And what are
we ate good. That's for sure.
What are the cookies?
The pinoli cookies.
Pinoli cookies, yeah. So I'm stuffed. So while he's talking, I may fall asleep, but I'm going to try to stay up. And Kevin is going to tell you a little bit about himself. I told him, I says, Kevin, if I didn't tell you guys out there that Thursday there was going to be a special guy coming on here, I wouldn't even made him do it because he's such a good guy. He told his story so many times. He just come out with a movie. And he wrote it. He wrote it and starred in it. And if I do this right, there it is. That's the movie he wrote, directed, and starred in it. It's The Bastard Sons, and it's an unbelievable movie. And I guarantee you, not one out there will be able to predict the ending. Because I couldn't, and I'm pretty good at that stuff. So anyway, that's what he does. He started out in after he got out of the service, and that's a whole traumatic story in itself. He could talk about it if he wants. I just feel in fact I told him this afternoon. I says I once asked Pat Henry. Pat Henry years ago was Sinatra's opening act, and I asked him once, I says, how does Sinatra sing the same songs year after year after year for 30, 40, 50 years? And then I asked him, because some of the podcasts he comes on, all these famous ones, these big, they're like marathons. They last for an hour, 2 hours. And I said that we're just going to do a real quickie today because he's been here since 2:00 this afternoon. And he's a real interesting guy. I don't know how far he wants to go back, but what I do want him to do is talk about this movie, how he made it. It's interesting and unbelievable how he made it. For all you guys out there that want to make their own movie, and I know there's at least 4 of you because you keep calling me, here's the guy that started, understands the bullshit and the nonsense. Them are not his words; these are my words. That Hollywood and all that phony bullshit out there. And the only reason I'm saying it now because you heard me say it before. He went through all of that, and he was on many shows, and including The Sopranos, up, and it was in a couple of movies, and then he realized the truth of the matter, and he started his own company, and now he made 2 or 3 movies himself, and this was the last one he made. He wrote it, stars in it, and directed it, his own money. And it's so go, where is it at? Where could they find it?
You can see that on Amazon Prime and Tubi. It's for free.
All right, I talked enough now. So Kevin, talk whatever you want to talk about, the movie, how you did it, your war hero stuff.
You've been way too kind and generous. Hi everyone that's watching. Thanks, Larry, for having me. Look at this one. And this is not a Mickey Mouse rinky dink podcast, like you said. This is special, and I appreciate being here because very rarely do I get a chance to talk to some real, genuine people. My life, I'm married. I have a 4-year-old girl. I have some wonderful friends and family, but for the most part, I kind of live in my own bubble. I don't know what's going on in the world. I don't listen to the news. I don't watch the news. I don't do anything. I found out about President Trump getting shot a day later. I am completely thrown into my work, 110%. Whatever I'm working on creatively, I stay in my bubble, and when I hop out, I devote my time to my daughter and my wife, because it took so long for me to get to where I am, and I know now what it takes to stay there and get to the place where I want to be. I started out as an actor. And I was what you would call a working actor. And then on the outside looking in, what would be called a successful actor. And on the outside looking in, it's not what it's really all cracked up to be. For me personally, it's a nice feeling. But creatively, it was extremely disheartening because I was constantly giving people my all on their projects. And I wasn't receiving it back. And it's the worst feeling in the world when you give everything you got from your soul, your gut. You're not getting paid a lot of money. And, you see the movie and it's not really what you were hoping it would be. It doesn't reach enough people. So then my work can't reach enough people. I can't move anyone through my expression, And then sometimes people just don't finish their work either. They just don't follow through. So I was giving so much of myself to this business and the movies and things that I've been doing, throughout the years. Even though I was busy, it just wasn't enough. It simply just wasn't enough for me. I wanted more. And I knew I had more inside of me. And I started writing, and I started learning how to produce movies the right way for when the time came that I would make my own movie. And then that's kind of what I did. I said, well, if I'm not happy and things are not happening for me, banging on the door to Hollywood. You can bang on the door to Hollywood all you want. It doesn't break. I'm a pretty strong guy. It doesn't break. They have to open it. And you can bang there all day long. Unless that door opens, that's the only way you're getting in. So there's a lot of people still out in Hollywood that go there and they follow their dreams and whatnot. And you know what, Larry? I stopped following my dreams at a certain point. And I said, dreams are not going to get me there. Dreams will inspire me. But to follow my dream, there's no goal there. So I started following a plan. And the only way I could make that plan is if I set it in motion myself. So while I learned how to make these movies, I continued to act and I continued to book work. And
that's how you supported your family, because you're married,
right?
And you have a beautiful 4-year-old daughter.
I sure do.
And that's how you supported
my wife and I, yeah,
during this time.
Yeah, my wife's an actress too.
That took a lot of guts.
Thanks. Yeah, it's risky, man. It's this kind of lifestyle. So I appreciate moments like this. Solidarity is when I go, back home with my wife and we sit down. It's like, this is what I have. This is solid. My mom and dad are still with me. My brother, I have very close friends in the business. But as far as the lifestyle that I chose, how income comes in, it's not normal. You know, I'm in my 40s and I still get judged by how I look, you know, from people that I'll never even meet. So the idea of doing an audition and putting all your time and effort into an audition and then submitting it to someone that I have no idea who they are, and they look at it and it goes to someone else I have no idea who they are, and they look at me and they're like, nah, I don't think so. Just the thought of someone like that I'll never even meet, who I don't know who they are, is dictating my career, or I should say my life. I couldn't deal with that. So eventually I stopped. I was not able to deal with the life of an actor, the lifestyle of an actor. I couldn't just keep waiting. I'm not a waiting kind of guy. I think kind of connect with you a little bit on that aspect of things.
Absolutely.
So I said, excuse my language, but I think this is the appropriate language for the show I'm on. I said, fuck it. I'm going to do it my goddamn self. And that's what I did. And then, but in doing so, I made sure I knew what the hell I was doing. So I prepared, I studied with people, I talked with people. And then when I started making my own films, yeah, we invested in our first one, The Bastard Sons. And I didn't want anyone to put money in that because I wanted to bank on myself first until I was proven. So I did it and I said, okay, I could do this. And then we started receiving investments from other people. The movies made money. I'm like, okay, it worked. I get it now. Now I get the model. Now I get the system. So I'm satisfying myself creatively in all these ways. By nature, I'm a hard worker. That's from my dad instilling that in me. Not so much the military. My dad was tough.
Did the industry, because we talked about this afternoon, that's the only reason I know this. The industry itself has changed.
Yeah.
Did that change help you in doing what you're doing, writing your own stuff? It helped a lot being an independent film guy than trying to go to studios.
Yeah, it gave me a shot.
Yeah,
it gives anybody a shot. Anybody could make a movie. I mean, anybody can open up a pizza joint. Is it good? You know, you can open a pizza joint up and the pizza's like mediocre, and people come in and say this pizza's all right. And you're like, well, I didn't have enough money to buy the best product, so it's gonna taste like what it tastes. With movies, you got one shot. There's no improving a pizza. They're not gonna come back the next day and try it. So you got one shot to make this movie. So regardless of how much money you have, that can't be an excuse. So that's kind of the approach I took, you know.
I don't understand how, maybe you can get into it a little bit, how you could make a movie of the quality of that picture there and for $70,000. I don't get it. I don't know how you did it, because I was involved in 2 movies in my lifetime just because friends of mine did it. And the amount of people that are there, the amount of the dresser, the food, the director, the assistant, and everybody else involved, and then the amount of time, 30 days, 60 days, 9. How do you do it for $70,000? I just don't get it. Maybe you can speak about that.
Yeah, and that was 11 days.
11 days you did that?
Yeah, and then the movie after that was called Malicious. That was 11 days as well. Yeah. You know,
how do you do it?
I think coming up the way I did was a blessing, because I had to really scratch and work for everything I had coming in this business. I didn't know what an agent was. I didn't know what a casting director was. I didn't know anything. So I just started learning how to be an actor, which I found clicked for me. That was the one thing I needed in my life when I started my acting training. So when I started booking work, back in the day, there was not a lot of big things happening in New Jersey. Even New York, there wasn't that many big things happening. So I was a workaholic, especially as an actor. So I'm like, I'm going to act as much as I possibly can in anything I could find. So I did. So I did a lot of crap. I did a lot of people's first time doing this, a lot of student films. I drove 4 hours to go audition across Pennsylvania, down in Maryland. I did anything and everything I possibly could with just that drive work ethic so I can get work. That's what I did. And I noticed that every now and then I would do something and it came out really good. It sounded really good. It was a good story. And I noticed, like, if the script was well written and you wrote it in such a way that it didn't warrant these massive locations or a big camera set up, or I need a crane to put up there and slope down and all this stuff. And the camera guy, you know, the cinematographer was just really dime tight and knew his stuff. And so the sound guy, yeah, I did little short 5-minute, 4-minute films that were beautiful. And it was a camera guy and a sound guy and 2 actors. That was it. So I came from grassroots, no budget films when I started as an actor and worked my way up. A lot of actors start high and they don't know the difference. They don't know that they can achieve what they're doing by cutting this, cutting that, cutting this, cutting that. It's kind of like the reference I made the houses before. You think it's worth letting the viewers know, like kind of like
Go ahead.
Say
it, because it makes sense, and then you have to explain how you did a movie in 19 days. But explain what you just said, because it makes sense.
So making a movie, to me, coming from a family construction business with my dad, is I equate it to buying a house, buying a piece of land, and to build a house for spec and selling it. So if you have 2 pieces of land right next to each other, and you're able to get the land as cheap as possible, right? So say you buy your land $100,000 each, or Larry buys his for $100, I buy mine for $100. So Larry builds his house, and he's an experienced, crafty handyman. So to build his house soup to nuts, he can do it for $100,000. So he bought his land for $100, and he just built his house for $100. Me, I don't know jack shit. So I'm just going to sub everything out and hire people to do it. So it's going to cost me, let's say, $250 to build it. It's just going to cost me more because I don't know how to do anything. So now I'm in for the land and the house, $350, and you're in $200. But the houses on that street in that neighborhood are selling for $350. So I busted even. He made money, but we made the same exact house. So you try to make it you keep the production quality, but keep the budget as low as possible. So if you do things yourself, you have people around you that are able to for minimal costs. That's kind of the business model I've been using. Even if when the budgets get bigger, which they are now, I'm pretty lucky, man. I'm fortunate. I'm not leaving that business model. I'm not going to get $1 million from someone being like, oh shit, now it's payday for me. That's not fair.
Are you going to continue doing this, making your own movie, just starting your own, making your own movies, or are you still out there auditioning for parts for things?
Yeah,
or you're going to concentrate. Oh, both of them.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been auditioning. They come every now and then. You get cast for reasons or not cast for reasons that you'll never know the reasons for. So that's just kind of a flippant way that you just have to exist. And that's cool. When it comes in, it works great. Being in my 40s with a kid and a wife and bills and mortgage and this and that, it's like to just live that life and hope. I just do my best work.
So you fill in the gaps.
I fill in the gaps
with your own writing, your own stuff, and it took a lot of guts to do that. Being married and having a kid.
Yeah.
And then you realize that you're sitting here waiting. I'm doing the same thing I was for 5 years since my thing, and it's got to be tough. And I was by myself, and that, to me, if I lived on a park bench or there, I adjust to any situation very easily. So it never bothered me. But what started to bother me was that everything I ever did in my life, I always took total control and got the job done.
Right.
And this was the first time in that business, your business, which to me was a fucking bullshit business, dealing with the scum of the earth. I thought the horse people were bad, but I had to leave California. I told you this afternoon, I had to leave California after 3 years.
Yeah.
I told my friend Lou, I got to get out of here. He said, why? I got to get out. I'm going to kill somebody.
Yeah.
I got to get out of here. Too much phony bullshit. Everything is plastic, phony. The guy whose property we were renting to do this show, he had cards made up that he was a producer. And he'd go out at night and pick up girls, say, just for the part. And then he'd say, I'm a producer, and get the sick fucking people. Anyway, the way what you said downstairs was something interesting, because years ago I remember they told me that if you raise $10 million to make a movie, you needed $10 million for distribution. That was very important. And when Village Roadshow, which is one of the largest distribution companies in the world, they deal with 180 countries. They were partnering up with Sony Pictures to do my movie just before COVID. And that was the case back then. But now you're telling me that distribution is a whole lot different now, because talk a little bit about that, because I picked his brain all afternoon. So this is a lesson for me too, not just a podcast. The only reason doing a podcast is because I told everybody to tune in, otherwise I wouldn't even be doing this with him. So this is an education for me. So tell a little bit about why you can make an independent film and not really need a tremendous amount of money for distribution. Why?
Because excuse me, the access is there. It's just how diligent you are going after the knowledge to get it and to execute it. So, like I said, anybody can make a film. And then to sell a film, the doors are open now because the streaming platforms are putting every single movie that they get on the platform, but they don't delineate between what's studio and what's independent. You know, a studio movie, just so you know, is they're mostly obviously big budget movies, but a studio movie is a movie that the funding comes from the studio. Any movie where the money does not come from a studio is considered independent. If I'm making a movie, I go to Larry, I said, Larry, I'm making a movie for $100,000. Hey, Kev, here's a check. Boom. I'm in business. I'm greenlit. That's an independent film. It come from my mom, my dad, my buddy, my brother, my sister. You get the picture. That's an independent film. When you make your independent film, it's up to the filmmaker to make the best possible quality movie, whether you have a bigger budget, smaller budget. Depending on how good the movie is and the people that are in it, you will warrant getting a bigger distribution deal. The better distribution deal you get and the bigger distributor you get better placement on the platforms. So like I was telling Larry, when Bastard Sons came out, it was on Amazon and Apple and all that stuff. There's like 10,000 platforms. I don't even know all of them, and I'm in the business. But when it came out on Apple, it was right next to Oppenheimer. And it blew me away. It was kind of a bizarre thing because that movie was, I'm assuming, over $100 million. And then there was Bastard Sons for 68,000 right next to it. You have a shot, you have a chance, you know. The way it gets there, like you were saying, I actually went out to the artist that made that poster, not for Oppenheimer, but that the distributor uses for those top level posters. And I just paid him myself directly to make me some posters.
That's the guy you said is available, because now I didn't even know this. Yeah. Now, aside from getting a budget and all the other bullshit, I have to get a poster now.
Yeah, but I know a guy. Don't worry about it.
You know,
I know a guy, Larry. So when I went,
everybody in Jersey,
everybody knows a guy. But the ones I know, I don't recommend anybody unless I would work with them myself, man. I would never want egg on my face.
But why do I need you told me this. Why do I need a poster?
To present to the distributor.
To present to the distributor. Oh,
yeah.
So the first step is make the film and go to the film festivals. Is that the
You could
routine?
if you want to. If you want to go that route. There's really only 10 festivals in the whole world that push the needle. That help you for sales. If you get into one of these festivals, you'll get picked up in magazines and stuff like that. Like, it matters. Maybe 15. There's some horror ones out there that are big.
Is that all political bullshit too, that you got to know somebody to get in there?
You tell me. You've been around the block longer than I have, right? So I want to say yes. But when you're on the other side of politics and you do know somebody there, isn't that a good thing?
I learned one thing, and it's in my book, and it'll be in the movie if it ever gets made.
Yeah.
I learned that everybody and everyone has a price. And the line of morality moves like crazy when it comes to profit.
Yeah.
That fucking line just keeps going to the right when it comes to profit and money.
Yeah, it does.
So I learned that. So the answer is yes. You know somebody, you can, if Tom Hanks was, or if De Niro was my brother, I'd be in his film festival down there.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't, I got no shot. It's sad because like I told you that story about when I went with Al Leone and they had all the scripts up against the wall, and people think
Right.
it's so sad that they think you think because you wrote a script and gave it to a big studio and they accepted it, that they're looking at it and you're all excited. In the meantime, it's in the garbage pail. They never even look at it unless it's attached to a major star or a major director. And that's so sad. It's so sad. That's why it's such a scummy business. And that's why I really think that what you're doing now, the independent, that might be a wave coming, right? Do you think?
It's there because everything's getting more achievable and everything's getting more possible. But it's up to the person to really be the go-getter and find out. You know, thank God people like my work. I'll tell you what, man, I wouldn't be continuing in this business, and I think this is the wrong way to look at it too. I wouldn't be in this business at all as an actor, which is what I truly am, you know. I wouldn't be in if I didn't get if I didn't hear praise from people. That's the God's honest truth. I wasn't strong enough at that time in my life during my late 20s, my 30s to continue on, but just believing in myself. I needed more validation than that. Not that I sought it. I did not seek it. I thought what I had was something that people wanted to watch. I thought I had something that was worth watching to give. But you never know. You never know who sees your work. So unless I got people reaching out via email or Facebook or this one, say, hey, man, you don't know me, but I just saw this movie and this, that, and it said really nice things. I was like, oh.
You know what impressed me when I watched that movie? And also when you just showed me that clip downstairs that you paid $200 to get it made.
Yeah.
It's you on camera saying very, very few words, but between what you look like, your expressions, and the way you just sit there and answer the question that anybody else would take 3 sentences to answer, your answers were no. Okay. Not exactly. And it's just, and all at the right, and I know you wrote it and that how a guy could be on screen and be the star of the show and say that few words and you just with a 2 or 3 word answer or a statement, you got the whole thing covered. And that to me is very, because it's not just the words, it's the whole body language, the whole face and everything else. And that's what's impressive. And that's why I told Andrea, and I told her this in front of you. I said, if it wasn't for the bullshit that the investor that wants to invest all the money to make the movie wants a top actor, you know, a bankable actor and director, which you can't blame them because they're all investing $10-20 million to make a profit, you'd be the perfect guy. You'd be the perfect guy. The New Jersey guy, that the same size, same height, same dial, same everything. You'd be the perfect guy. But because, and I also said that if Andrea is not successful with this investor or whatever she wants to do, and I'm sure she will be, but if she's not, I'm going to try to raise the money myself, and you're going to be the star. You're going to be me. Your wife is going to be one of the 3 girls that are in the movie, and I'm going to be right with the director, whoever that might be, because and that movie. And I would have, and probably I'd be like something like Chaz Palminteri, who he got all the neighborhood guys to play. The only actor was De Niro, but that's what made it. De Niro got the money to make it, and Scorsese and everything else. But aside from that, all them other guys at the crap game, they're all street guys. They're all fucking neighborhood guys. I knew half of them. They're all racetrack bums that go to the racetrack, and that's what I would do. Because do you need a Tom Hanks to go make a bet at the window when they say, how'd you pick these numbers? And you need a Tom Hanks to say, I've been betting horses for 30 years. I finally make a score and you want to interrogate me? Get the fuck out of here. You need Tom Hanks for that? You need a guy, a regular street guy. He could do it. In fact, I told on one of the podcasts, I told I says that if I ever fund the move, if this don't work out and I get the money to make the movie myself, you're going to be the star. I'll get Joey Molina to pay one of the runners and Tommy Stiggs to play the other runner. Two guys gamble their whole life. Tommy just got out of jail for bookmaking, and Joey Molina, all know who he is, and they'd be the perfect guys. So,
man. Did you hear it? Did you hear that? That was an offer, a pending official offer. It's on camera.
No, it's
on camera.
Once I say it, if I say it to you,
I know it's real.
And
I appreciate it.
It's
great.
Done.
Thank you very much.
And I really mean that. I only wish I have something going now where if it works, I'll be very wealthy. If it don't work, then I'll just be a fucking has-been like I am right now. But I'll fund it myself. I'll fund the whole thing myself. If this thing happens that I'm working on, if it works out, I'll put in 10, 20, 30 million dollars and make the movie myself, and you'll be, and everybody involved will be me. It'll be me, you, Mitch, Andrea, Alfred, Shaman, Tom. Everybody will be involved, and we'll make the movie ourselves. And fuck these big studios and everything else, because they're all full of shit anyway.
Thanks so much,
terrible,
man.
terrible thing what they do to people.
It is.
It's just terrible. That I learned a big lesson when I went to that studio with Al Leone, and the girl come in. I'll tell you real quick because I just told him, girl, come in. We're at this major studio. My friend Al Leone owns all the films, the Italian films from this big filmmaker called Bava, whoever he was a famous guy in Italy. And this big company, this big production company, wanted to make an American version of one of the movies that he had called Rapid Dogs. So they bought the option. While we were sitting there making this deal, a secretary comes in. Now, at the desk is the boss of the studio. Opposite him is his secretary. In from halfway through the meeting, in from another room comes another secretary wheeling a cart with a cardboard box on it. She's taken all of these scripts out. There must have been 30, 40 scripts in there. She's taking them out, putting them on the desk, and she gives the boss some private mail. The other girl comes around. She looks at the scripts and starts making two piles, but one pile has 3 or 4 scripts in it, and the other pile has 30. She takes the pile with 30 and 5 at a time. She puts them up against the wall, which is flooded with, from ceiling to floor, with other scripts.
Isn't that crazy?
And there was 3 remaining on the desk. After the deal was made, they bought the option. After the deal was made, we go to lunch. So Al is sitting across from this guy. I can't remember his name. And I'm sitting opposite this girl. And I says, I got to ask you a question. That mail that come in, says, oh, they were scripts. I says, well, how come, what happened? So you got like a million of them against the wall. She says, yeah. She says, I says, well, she says, the ones that I'm in charge of screening this, and the ones that come in with attached to a major director or a superstar, I leave for him to okay.
Yeah.
So now, and all the rest of them, all of these poor people, they have an agent because they won't accept any unsolicited material. So you have to get an agent or to submit it. So finally you get an agent, you make a deal, and then it takes you a hell of a long time to get an agent because nobody wants it, because you're nobody. So they don't know. But finally you find an agent. And you're able to get, and now you're all happy. You go home, you tell all my script. Warner Brothers took the script and everything. They don't know it's against the fucking wall with a million other ones never to be seen. And it's sad what they do. They don't even return a call and say, look, we looked at this. It's not for us at this time. And not a return phone call, like you're a fucking mutt. And it's just terrible the way they treat. And then what happens, I wind up in the fucking business with the people that I despise and talk about all the time. Half my friends are actors. And I says, how could you, when you're with me, to stop with this fucking Mickey Mouse fucking bullshit? Just be the guy you were when we were playing stickball in the street.
Yeah.
So, that's it, and that's the game. But like I always said, even in a horse business, it's a smaller tracks. Even like Alfred. He's been music his whole life. In fact, he wrote the last song Sinatra ever recorded.
Andrea's dad.
Andrea's dad. Here's to the Band. That was the last song Sinatra ever recorded. His love for music is such that what he's doing now, and all he does is sit home all day and write songs and record and everything. It's just no money, just an act of love.
Yeah.
And when that's in you, like I go there and say, oh, you're fucking 85 years old. You're still fucking with that saxophone and everything else and writing songs. and it's an act of love.
Yeah.
And I guess when that's in you, and the only way I could explain it is that my whole thing was racing horses.
Right.
I had to go
That was
fast.
your high, right?
That was it. I had to race horses. And what this fucking scumbag did to me when he barred me from Yonkers, not only did he kill my father because of that, which I never went into that story, but that's a horrible, horrible story that my father died because of that situation. And someday I'll get into that whole thing.
Okay.
But I would much rather, and that's why I get so angry when people call up and say, you destroyed the business and everything else. The fucking business, I didn't invent corruption. It was there long before I even got there. But the road I took, I didn't take it. I was forced to take it. I was thrown out of the right lane into that lane. And now because you put me in this lane, you're going to blame me for what happened when that night? Get the fuck out of here. But I would much have rather that just leave me alone. Let me do what I love. I would have been in the Hall of Fame today. And I would have had a lot of horses. I would have been living the life happy instead of going through what I went through since 1965. What I went through in them years. And my friend said it right. It's in the book. The journey that I went through, not few would survive. And that's true. Anyway, that's enough for me. This is about you.
Well, yeah, but I'm here for you too, man. I find you way more interesting than myself. What am I? Let me ask you a question. No, you got the fire, Larry. It's good to see. So let me ask you this: having gone through that, because I look at your situation, what you went through, and differently than these people you're referring to, and I'm like, wow, this guy's a survivor, man. This guy is a survivor. That's an inner grit that can't, I don't know if it's something that can be trained.
I got to stop you. I got to stop you because I have to tell you, because if I don't tell you, because I very rarely, even on the podcast that you watch, I never told the story. If you remember how I ended that podcast with White's belly, whatever he's called it.
Soft, whatever belly.
I says, we'll talk about it next time. I don't want to talk about it because it bothers me so much because my whole life, I did everything. I was respectful and everything else. And I took the fucking punches when I had to take the punches. And then with this guy, he barred me from racing, the thing that I love, for something that I didn't do. And because of that, it's cause and effect. What you did caused me to do what I did. Now, we fast forward 5, 6, 7 years. I owe to the worst fucking killer in Jersey and New York, Robert Cabert. Everybody knows him, and it's in my book, and the whole world knows that. They all knew the situation. I had to give him. Well, there were two of them, but together I had to come up with 16,000 in vig every fucking week. God. And this is in 72, 73. That was a lot of fucking. I think my father was making $300 a fucking month or something, and I was okay. So now there comes a time when Tony Schuler, who was we were fixing all the races in New York. He takes off. He was a fucking scummy. He was Whitey Bulger's guy. He was a scummy fucking. He's just not a good guy. And I set him up. I set up the whole thing with all New York guys, New York jockeys. I set everything up. A perfect plan. We were making hundreds of thousands of dollars every week, and I was able to do everything I had to do. And meaning the payoffs and everything else, because every race that we fixed, it cost me maybe $30,000, $40,000. Half of that was to pay off the jockeys. The other half was to make the bets. So he runs away. When he runs away, it happened three times during that period of time. One time I got one time, I can't get into the story because it'll go on forever. But anyway, one time I was in a bad spot. And when Kabert told me, I'm going to let you live because you said you could pay. So if you're going to pay, the $300,000 you owe me is going to be a Shylock loan, 2 points. That's $7,500 a week. You miss one fucking week, you'll be right here in that fucking cement with no turning back. Now the week comes, I can't find, and I got a week to come up with this, but I can't find him. I go to my mother. My mother used to work for Tommy Lucchese, and I know Tommy Lucchese, he used to take good care of my mother. He bought mutual funds for her, for me, and she was holding all this. So I go to my mother and I say, Ma, I'm in a lot of trouble. I said, and the reason I went to her, because one of the guys come to my mother's house and said, make sure your son shows up here. Make sure your son, he's always trying to keep you honest because I'm supposed to be there. So, and my mother calls me up frightened and everything. And they said they're going to blow up the house and everything. Make sure you show up. And I was 1 week late, and they were looking for me, and I knew I was in trouble. So my mother calls me and says, what's the matter? And I told her the whole story. I says, Ma, the guy I'm working with, he never called me. I can't kite enough. I don't have enough. I had a lot of things going on, a 3-state kite going. I says, I need about $20,000. She says, I will sell everything I have if you promise me that you will tell your father to go back to work. Because my father, like I said before, we talked about it. Well, we didn't talk about it here, but I was the firstborn son. He was an old Italian guy from Italy. He adored me. He followed me. And when I got my license to drive, he was there. He never went to work no more. He'd just take off and just follow. No matter if I was in Buffalo, he'd be in Buffalo. In 1950 Dodge, he would drive that all around. Always stayed with me. Adored me. He was so proud. And he took care of me all the time, because when I was a bad kid, I used to come home. The police would bring me home. I was 14, 15. All these fucking marks, all these scars on my arms was from my mother hitting me with that fucking square stick. And that's enough, Bessie. He was always my savior. I was 15 years old. I robbed a car. I didn't know I was a standard shift. I bucked into a pole and crashed and everything else. And my mother beat the shit out of me. My father the next day taught me how to drive.
Right.
If you're going to rob, learn how to drive. So that's how my father was. Now, my mother says, I'll give you this money. I'll cash everything I have. I'll sell all my policies, everything, give you this money if you promise me that your father goes back to work. You got to tell your father to stop hanging out with you and go back to work. I need help here. I can't do this all by myself. So I go to my father and I says, Dad, I says, I lied. I says, the racing committee, because he used to come to the track every morning. In the morning, stay with me all day.
Wow.
I says, Dad, you can't come to the track anymore. They're having a big investigation and check everybody's license. And if somebody's associated with me, they're going to bar me from the racetrack. You can't.
He knew what was going on.
No, my father didn't.
He didn't know? Okay.
No. So he was heartbroken. He says, you mean I can't come here no more? I says, Dad, you can't come here. Maybe not forever, but right now they're having a big investigation. You can't come here. And he says, well, when do you think I could come back?
Oh, man.
I says, you got to go back to work, help mommy with the bills and everything else. About 6 days later, My mother gives me enough money to straighten out. My father, from that day on, went home, never went back to work, sat in that fucking chair. And the seventh day, my brother found him dead of a broken heart. Just sat there, never got up. Shit, pissed, everything right in the chair, wouldn't get up, sat there like a zombie, and just fucking died. At the funeral, at the wake, I'm sitting there when we first go in, me and my mother, my father's laying there. I was fucking sick. And I look over to my mother, and I never forget this, she had a fucking tear. It was like painted. It just like stopped right here. And she just stared ahead. And I said, Ma, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. And I started to cry. And she just looked straight ahead. He was laid out in Moresco's funeral parlor in Astoria, Queens, right under the L. It was the second floor. She looked at me and I looked at her. I was sick. I went downstairs. I threw up. And it was 3 days. They used to lay him out for 3 days. I stayed downstairs for the 3 days. I couldn't go back upstairs. And the last day, my friends come. And I says, go find this fucking Tannenbaum. Tell me where he is. I was going to kill him.
Yeah.
I was going to kill him.
You were there.
I was there. I was going to kill him. And I says, find him right away. And they come back to me about 2-3 days later. And the worst part was, oh, God, they wouldn't release the body because the check I gave them, the $3,000 bounced.
Oh,
and they wouldn't release the body. And my poor mother, what I put her through. And that's why at the end of that series, that podcast with Soft White Belly, when he says, do you have any regrets? I says, the only regret I had in my life, and I had a fucking life, boy, but the only regret is what I put my mother through.
I remember
that. And that's the only regret I have. And then he says, well, what about your father? And I says, I can't talk about it now. And he says, oh, do. And that's how it ended. But because, and the fucking guy, Tannenbaum, who barred me, he wound up going to jail. He was an embezzler, but he was heavyweight in the Democratic Party. That's why he got the license to own the racetracks and everything else. But he was a thief himself. He got accused of embezzling. He robbed millions of people. And then he wants to accuse me of something that I didn't do.
Right.
And that's what I mean. I have a problem turning the other cheek. But when I went to get help from Tommy Lucchese, he was in a hospital dying of a malignant brain tumor.
Yeah.
And I was on my own. I stood alone. And I says, how the fuck am I going to do this? It's a terrible, terrible thing when you're Italian and you're born with that fucking DNA and you have a problem turning the other cheek when somebody smashes you, especially if you're right. How the fuck do you get back? And the only way I was able to get back was to hook up a few years later, after eating pigeons for 2 fucking years, hook up with a fucking snake, a rat, a phony fucking bottom-feeding prick who was Whitey Bulger's guy that fixed all, and that's how I did it. And that's what my whole life started in fixing the races.
Yeah.
Now, I told you never should have let me talk because I run my fucking mouth.
No.
And this should be about you. I wanted you to try to promote this. I want everybody to look at this here. Where is it? This one right here? There it is.
That's it.
Everybody watch this. It's on. I watched it on Amazon Prime, and it's an unbelievable film. And after you watch it, if you could figure out at the end what the ending was, and you have it figured out, you call me because he told me, and I ain't telling nobody because the end is there's 2 or 3 different twists in there. I got all of them but 2, but the last one I completely missed. Anyway,
well, I got more. I can't let you go. I got more questions.
All right, go ahead.
You have to shut it off. You got a time limit?
No, I have to stay here until midnight.
All right.
You made me shut the fucking air off. It's 100 degrees in here.
So, I'm an actor, man. You know, I feed off people. I feed off their energy and their vibes and all that stuff, and it feeds me. So look at this as early work. If by some chance that the thing presents itself that I portray you in a movie, right? Which essentially means to me that I am going to be you. It's when you're an actor and you play a role, to me, what a real actor should be is someone that always comes from a personal place, regardless of what's said on screen, regardless of what the dialogue is, regardless of the subject matter. I may get a script that says I'm walking hand in hand and with my girlfriend, and I turn around and I say to her, "Do you love me?" And she says, "Yeah, I do." And I get on one knee and say, "Will you marry me?" Me as a person, yeah, obviously I'm married, but playing a scene like that doesn't necessarily mean that I can emotionally attach to the material just because it says it, just because I'm an actor. So you personalize things. So a lot of times doing a scene like that, if you don't connect, if you don't click, if there's not a woman in my life who I love or never did, how the hell am I supposed to come up with the emotional response that fits that kind of material? I have to go somewhere else. So even though on camera action, I'm walking with this girl, to me, it's the hand of someone I love. To me, this woman who I'm talking to could essentially be my mother. And every time I see her mouth move, I'm not hearing it. In my mind, I'm hearing, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of everything you've accomplished, and it brings me to my fucking knees. And I say, "You're the best mom in the world. I'll do anything for you." But the dialogue that comes out is, "Will you marry me?" You connect to something to bring the emotional response. Anyway, not to get all with that. Sorry to bore you if you're listening, but you got fired up. You got really fired up talking about that. And you even left it, and then you came back to it. I watched my old man get screwed over by people because he was so honest to a fault, so loyal to a fault doing construction, right? All these businesses and trades that bring the most the most savory characters. He got taken advantage of left over right. And as a kid, that scarred me, seeing that my old man be a real fucking man and not knock somebody out and just take it so he could just tough it out and get the paycheck. You know what I mean? He took it. But I know he was so full of fire, my old man, that's what drove him to keep going. And I've seen his back against the wall many times, and he fought out of it. But you can't fight out of something like that unless you have a driving force behind you. So at the time, he had me and my brother, and my mom. What was the driving force for you to fight out of that? Was it angst? Because even how many years has it been now?
It happened it happened in 1972, 71.
So 70 to 80, 90, 2000, 2010, 2020. So 50 years. You talk about it today, right now.
Well, my father died in 73. So that incident happened in 73. But
did that fire push you to get through it?
Here's the thing. I did a lot of bad things in my life. When I got caught, I took the fucking lumps. I always did everything by myself. The only fucking time I ever took somebody with me was the time I blew the engine on a fucking dragster, because robbing gas stations, you make $20, $15, $10 back in them days. I needed like $500-600.
Yeah.
I'm driving around looking for a score, and I see this gas station that just opened up, having a grand opening. They had all brand new tires, and back in them years, they had standard shift. They switched over to standard automatic transmissions.
Yeah.
They had these big jacks and everything else. The problem was these fucking jacks that took these 200-pound transmissions. They weighed, they didn't weigh that much, maybe 100 pounds, but they were awkward. You couldn't get them up because the night before I robbed a big box truck to empty everything out.
Right.
So I had to get a guy. And first time in my life. So I get a guy. I could say it now because I already told him. He calls me all the time. I says, I took the worst beating of my fucking life to protect you. So we laugh about it now. But I wouldn't have said nothing anyway. So anyway, he says, "Oh, good. I got the perfect guy to do it. He's out in Long Island. I got the perfect guy." And that was the guy that turned us in, and it was his guy. The first fucking time I ever did anything with another guy. Before that and after that, I always did everything by myself. When I got caught, I took the lumps. When I lost, I lost. When I won, I won. I spent the money, and when I lost, I got the money. I always did the right thing based on street life. You lose, you lose. You got to pay. If you get a smack in the face, it's because you did something wrong as a kid. Maybe you did. I remember one time I got a smack. my friend, I'll never forget, Mike Sorrentino. He's dead now, but he's a good guy. He comes every night. I had some horses with him. He come every night with his wife. I'm a fucking street kid since I was a kid. What do I know? Hello, nice to meet you, shake your hand, everything else. And every night he'd come to the races. Hi, Mike. Hello, Mr. Sorrentino. Hello. He says, come here, I want to talk to you. This is about after maybe 5-10 times. He takes me upstairs in the grandstands and he goes, what the fuck is that for? You got a problem kissing my wife? You're supposed to kiss my wife hello. None of this fucking handshake. You kiss my wife hello. That's the Italian way. You kiss my wife hello. I didn't know that. I still don't know if it's the right thing to do. Now I know that, especially now that I'm involved with all this Hollywood bullshit, everybody, 2 kisses on this shit. That's not me. But that's how the street was. I got a fucking slot because the first time I shook a hand, I got away with it. But then after that, you're supposed to hello, and hug and kiss on the cheek. That's the Italian thing. What the fuck do I know? I went around in circles my whole life with cars and with horses. So I did everything by myself. I took the lumps but when I get accused of doing something I didn't do, that's tough. Because if I did something wrong and I get caught, I take the lumps. If I'm doing something wrong, and through the years, there's a lot of shit that I did that if it'd be a life sentence for me, it's a life sentence. Now it don't make a difference because a life sentence might be a fucking day or 2 weeks. It don't make no difference. But that's how I live my life. And when you can't, it's not that I'm a vindictive person. It's just that you lied and you fucked me.
Yeah.
And am I supposed to just be a fucking mutt and put my tail between my legs and walk away? That ain't ever gonna happen. I don't give a fuck who you are. And the reason I can say I don't give a fuck who you are is because the ones that you're supposed to respect, we're talking about the mob life now, they don't do that shit. They don't do that. They respect you as long as you respect them. Especially, and I had relationships with all of them because of the business I was in. I was fixing races. They all found out. But when you do something, I'll give you a good example. It haunts me till today. I went to court, tried to get my license back in 1984 when I got barred from Monticello. The guy that had the investigation that fucking cremated me for no reason at all, he's going to put me out of business. Now, at that time, I had 7 homes. I had a girl in every home. I had a full wardrobe in every closet. I had 2 cars in every garage. I had millions of dollars in the bank. I owned a training center that was worth millions of dollars. I was training close to 80 horses, and everything was perfect. And over a fucking bullshit thing, this motherfucker wants to crucify me, and he did. Now, we're in court, and you can't win because when you fight against the racing commission, you're appealing to the same people that accused you. So you got no chance.
Oh, I see.
Then you're allowed by rules to go to an administrative judge. So the administrative judge rules in my favor, but the racing commission who accused you has the last say. So they overruled that and they barred me. Now, we're in there after this decision, and I owe the lawyer 30, 40,000, whatever. And I'm telling him, look, I'm going to pay you because I had to juggle credit cards and get cash advances on the 15 credit cards I had when I was doing good. And here he comes down the street, walking down the street. Joe Landau, his name was. And the lawyer was standing here, and right on the sidewalk, because the parking lot was right there. And now I says, here he comes. I says, look, just back up a little so he has to walk between us. And I say, he says, Larry, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. We're going to appeal this. You're gonna don't do it. And I didn't do it. It haunts me till today, because all I wanted, I lost millions, and all I wanted was to fucking smash him in the face. That's all. Now I maybe did something more if he ever dropped.
You probably would have kept going.
I probably would have.
Yeah.
But so when I'm right, and you fuck with me, I fight to the end. I don't give a fuck if you're Mike Tyson or King Kong. Just don't fuck with me, and I won't fuck with you. I did nothing wrong. I know how to act in front of the right people, and I don't associate with people that I don't get along with. So I never have a problem. I'm 84 years old. I don't have any problems. But anyway, so that's it. So it's the DNA in me that just stops me. It makes me do that. And when people say, you killed my brother, but I forgive you so I can go on with my life. Well, me, I'd kill you back and then go on with my life. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
And now, if my brother did something bad, if he was in the mob or something, they killed him and everything else, that's the fucking life you chose. That's the life you chose. But just an innocent kid, like my cousin, Anthony Graffia, cop, New York City cop, in the back of a luncheonette. A couple of black guys come in, they robbed the place, and they shoot it. Anthony got up, they shot him dead. Guy goes to jail. My cousin Pete, my cousin Pete died just recently, but his son Mark always listens. So I get a hold of Pete. This is 30 years later. Guy's getting out of jail. I says, he's getting out. What do you want to do? And Pete was a tough guy. I'll take care of it. I know he's getting out. Go back home. And that's the way the family was. Now, I never asked him after that. He's getting out. You want to do something? I'm here with you, And you just handle things different. I just can't let something go. And that's why this movie thing is driving me crazy, because COVID stopped it.
Yeah.
Then the actors strike, then the writers strike, then the union strike, and then Vallango, he winds up killing himself with cocaine laced with fentanyl. It's been 5 years I sit in that fucking chair. When is something that's going to happen? And that's when Andrea came into my life, who I knew her whole life, and now you today. And it gives me a little hope. It gives me something to do besides walking my dog. That's enough about me. What else you want to say? What you want to talk about? Your movie or whatever? So you got something else coming up? What do you want to do? I got to stop talking because I will be here till midnight. And so that's it. I thank you so much for coming. You taught. Andrea was very happy that she met with you. You have a lot in common. I know you're going to do a lot of things together, and no matter what, you're part of my life now in the story and in my personal life. And now that I found out you live in Clifton, there ain't no fucking reason why you can't come over here, because you still have that hot super side down there.
Leave it in the fridge.
That's down there.
Leave it in the fridge.
So anyway, that's it, guys. How long we been here? We've been here
2 minutes.
Oh my God, an hour and 3 minutes. An hour and 3 minutes.
It just goes, man.
All right. Now, what I have to do is I have to. So far, I did everything right. I have to hit the ending.
Oh, can I ask people to go to my YouTube channel?
Absolutely, yeah, because I don't know how to put.
I don't either. It's all right. I got a YouTube channel, guys. Hi, and it's Kevin.Interdonato. You can find it, and I'm just releasing a lot of clips of my work through the years and work that's coming up all behind the scenes, because I got another movie that's going to be happening in November in Chicago called Dirty Hands, and it's an extremely violent tragedy.
That's the one we saw downstairs that you showed me.
That was Bad
thing?
Frank.
That was Bad. What is that? When is that?
That's been out for about 6 years now. Yeah, that was with Time Sizemore and Ray Boom Boom Mancini's in that. It's called Bad Frank on Amazon. But yeah, just if you're interested in what's going on in my life, yeah, once a week I'm putting some posts out and staying active. And thanks for
And
thanks
where
for your
are
time.
you on Facebook or
Instagram? You could there too. So YouTube and Instagram.
They got to know your name. Kevin Interdonato.
Interdonato, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you horse guys, which 90% of you are, we race with a guy called Bobby Interdonato.
Small
So
world.
the name will be easy to remember, and please, you'll be very happy that you watched this movie, and just keep track of him. He's an interesting guy, and he's gonna shoot to the top, and you'll probably be seeing him again. Maybe not, because I don't know. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and now I'm gonna see if I can end this. And here's the closing thing. So don't forget Tuesday at 8:00. I'm going to be on again, and with another special guest. I think I got a thoroughbred trainer. That's going to come on here. I'm not going to tell you till we confirm it. He called me tonight, but I didn't take the call. And he's going to come on here, and then we're going to have some fun. Me and him talking about the different training methods and everything about the training of standardbred and the thoroughbred. And he can ask me any questions he wants. This was already prearranged. The only thing we didn't do was make the date, and it's going to be quite interesting. And he's an older guy. He's probably a little bit younger than me, so there won't be no fisticuffs involved. It'll just be verbal stuff. And it'll be interesting. He's a top trainer. He did a lot of years, had a lot of good horses, and he agreed to come on. And he's a really nice guy. And we're going to talk about the differences between standardbred racing and thoroughbred racing, the difference in the training and conditioning of both breeds, both in body, soul, and mind. So it'll be interesting. I'm going to try to get him on as soon as possible. I'll let you know, and it might be this Tuesday. So just tune in anyway, and keep your questions, cards, and letters coming in, because my friend Jimmy reads them off to me, and I'll answer them. Until then, I'll see you around. How the fuck do you end this thing? This is it.
Just click on it.
Crazy because
Something I said?
End the stream.
yeah.